A wolf walks in through the doorway. It doesn't have to break the door down or dig. There is no door. Bahre, Uttar Pradesh, India, 2024. Over 6 months, 9 children were taken from their homes in their sleep. The youngest was 1 month old. The oldest was 8. The government's response was an advisory: put a door on your house. And in North America, the sentence you grew up with is this one: a healthy wild wolf has never attacked a human. Those two sentences describe the same animal. For those 9 children, India sent in 16 teams with thermal cameras and drones. They tried spreading elephant dung and urine around the villages, hoping the smell would push the wolves back. They caught 5. Villagers killed the 6th themselves. 500,000 rupees for each dead child. This is 2024. 9 children already sounds like a lot. In 1876, in the northwest provinces of British India, wolves killed 721 people. 1 year, 1 province. The year before, in 1875, wolves killed more people in India than tigers did. In 1878, the United Provinces recorded 624 deaths. That same year, Bengal recorded 14. Same country. A difference of more than 40 times. Hold that, we need it in the third act. Now go west. A French historian went through parish registers page by page, copying out the dead. From 1362 to 1918, roughly 10,000 people. France has the most complete records in the world, which is another way of saying France is the only place where we can count them. In the Himalayan region, across those same centuries, the records report 7,600 dead, civilians and soldiers. In 1928, police records from Korean mining districts under Japanese rule counted 48 people attacked by wolves. In those same records, that same year, wild boar, bears, leopards and tigers did not add up to that number combined. Iran, 1981. 98 attacks. This is not one region's bad luck. It's a ledger running across 3 continents and more than 500 years. By now you have an objection ready. Rabies. A wolf with rabies does bite people, and it's more dangerous, but the way it bites is different. A rabid wolf is random. It doesn't choose. It bites whatever it runs into, leaves, and usually collapses within a day. A hunting wolf chooses. It takes the smallest one and carries the person away from the scene, as far as 2.5 kilometers, in the records. Only then does it start eating. Those two behaviors look nothing alike in an archive. Separate them, and 6,500 of those 10,000 French deaths were not rabies. The Po Valley in Italy left a cleaner set of numbers. From 1801 to 1825, 112 attacks, 77 dead, the ones that can be put down to rabies, 5. Of those 7,600 in the Himalayas, 4,600 were not rabies. Estonia has another 136 non-rabies records. Rabies is part of this ledger. It isn't this ledger. A Norwegian research institute counted the fatal wolf attacks worldwide in the half-century up to 2002. Europe and Russia, 8. North America, 3. South Asia, more than 200. Same animal, same 50 years, 8, 3, 200. The wolf didn't create that gap. Hold those 3 numbers. We come back for them in the third act. Updated to 2020, it's around 500 attacks and 25 deaths worldwide. 14 of those deaths were rabid wolves. So who dies? 90% of the victims are under 18, and most are far younger than that. In the rare cases where an adult is killed, it's almost always a woman. The wolf doesn't hate us. Like every predator, it goes for the weakest one available. And the people sent out to work are the weakest ones available. Alone in the forest picking berries or mushrooms. Alone on a hillside with the goats. Even the calendar lines up. Predatory attacks peak from June to August. That's when people go into the forest, and when the pack has pups beside it and the most pressure to feed them. This happens often enough that India has a term for it. Child lifting. It means a wolf comes into the house while everyone is asleep, silently, and leaves with a child. Think about how common something has to be before it gets its own name. And it has a pattern. These attacks come in clusters, the same area, one after another. They usually don't stop on their own. They stop on the day people kill the wolves doing it. 1996, 3 districts of Uttar Pradesh. 42 children, not a pack, 1 wolf. Some sources put that year at 43. Afterward, 13 wolves were shot. 1996. The internet existed, mobile phones existed, and this ledger runs from 1362 to 1996 without a break. The thing with the break in it is our memory. So why have you heard the exact opposite? There has never been a documented case of a healthy wild wolf attacking a human in North America. That sentence has been repeated for decades. In popular science writing, in conservation campaigns, in documentary narration, It wasn't counted, it was written. The man who wrote it was Doug Clark, a Canadian biologist. He read the European historical accounts. He compared them against the wolves he met in the Canadian bush, the ones that run the moment they see a person. And he concluded that the historical attacks had all been rabies, and that a healthy wolf is harmless to people. His reasoning has two holes in it. First, he never separated rabid attacks from predatory ones, the two things we just separated. Second, the historical record contains survivors. Before the vaccine, a bite from a rabid animal was effectively a death sentence. A person who was bitten and lived is evidence that the wolf which bit them wasn't sick. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service never adopted his conclusion, neither did any other official body. So how did it become common knowledge? In 1963, Farley Mowat published Never Cry Wolf, a semi-fictional book. It sold extremely well. By the 70s, healthy wolves don't attack people had stopped being a claim under review. It was a slogan. And this part has to be said clearly. The people who wrote that slogan weren't liars. What they were trying to stop was a species being cleared off an entire continent. Everyone knew which argument worked best. It isn't dangerous. They said it to save a life. The problem is that a slogan gets asked to carry weight it can't hold. It started being used to explain India, to explain France, to explain every parish register in the 19th century. And the way it got used was this. Whenever the record disagreed with it, the record must be wrong. So I owe you the other side. The zoologist Karl Hans Tock has argued that many of the attacks assigned to wolves under Louis XIV and XV were other large carnivores, the kind that escaped from private menageries. He may well be right. Somewhere in those 10,000 French deaths, there are miscounts. But keep these two sentences apart. Some records are unreliable, can be checked. A healthy wolf never attacks a human can't be disproved, because any attack can be ruled afterward to have been an unhealthy wolf. The first is science. The second is a slogan wearing science as a coat. That was the first group. The second was in another country, for completely different reasons. After the October Revolution, the same skepticism appeared in the Soviet Union. The man leading it was a zoologist, Pyotr Alexandrovich Mantifil. His position was harder than Clark's. Every case of a wolf killing a person was either invented or a rabid animal. Russian-language zoology accepted it. Then the Second World War ended. Attacks had gone up during the war years. The Soviet Union set up a commission to investigate, and the man they put in charge of it was him. The man who said all of it was invented. November 1947, the report was handed in. Mantifil had changed his mind. It documented a large number of attacks, including attacks by wolves that appeared completely healthy. At the end, it gave recommendations, how people should defend themselves. That report didn't reach the public. It didn't reach the people whose job it would have been to act on it. After that, mentioning wolf attacks in public was something the censors removed. Why the authorities did that, I didn't find in any material I could reach. So I'm not going to invent a reason for them. What I know is the number that came later, Russia, 2018 to 2020, 712 cases. That sentence was overturned by the same man who wrote it, and his reversal went into a cabinet. So how did the North American version finally break? April 26, 2000, Icy Bay, Alaska. A 6-year-old boy was attacked by a wolf. He lived. What his injuries were and what happened to him afterward, I couldn't find a reliable record of, so I'm not writing it. A sentence that had held on paper for decades was torn open by a 6-year-old. Newspapers across the United States covered it, and the angle they took was that this was unusual. Unusual. Watch what that word does. It means the sentence is still standing, and this was an exception. So somebody decided to go back and count. The biologist Mark McNay compiled every close encounter between wolves and people in Canada and Alaska from 1915 to 2001, case by case, 80 of them. In 39, the wolf wasn't sick and behaved aggressively. 12 involved wolves confirmed to have rabies, 39, not 0. November 8, 2005, Points North Landing, Saskatchewan, Canada. A young man was killed by wolves. Those wolves were already habituated to people. It was the first fatal attack in 21st century North America. March 8, 2010, near Chignik, Alaska, a young woman was killed by wolves while out running, and the heaviest name in wolf research, L. David Meck, had already turned the claim into a conditional sentence back in 1998. He said wolves avoid people because of a fear that hunting taught them. He added something more important. Attacks are usually preceded by habituation, and if the wolf succeeds once, it comes back. That part is documented most clearly in India. There has never been a single case couldn't be said that way again. Which brings the question back. If the wolf has always been this animal, why have you never heard of anyone in North America being eaten by one? Because in North America, we killed nearly all of them. The historians of that period put it like this: it helped create a perception that wolves are harmless to humans. Read that twice. The wolf didn't change, the chance of meeting one disappeared, and we built our opinion in the gap. The evidence is in the 19th century record. Before firearms spread, the wolves of the Great Plains weren't afraid of people. They followed human hunters and ate the bison those hunters brought down. They came in close. That wasn't courage. Nobody had taught them yet. Same continent, same century. The wolves in the forest were the ones known for fearing people. Where's the difference? In forest, you and the wolf meet at close range with no warning. In open country, you don't. The oral histories of indigenous North Americans follow the same rule. Woodland peoples feared wolves more than tundra peoples did. Same reason. The trees don't warn you. That is Mech's 1998 hypothesis. Wolves avoid people because hunting taught them fear. The plains wolves eventually took the lesson too. It took a century. The tuition was nearly the whole population. What survived was the line that kept the greatest distance. Their pups run at the first sight of a person. The wolves in a North American forest today are that group's descendants. So the two accounts we left open in the first act can be settled. 8, 3, 200, and 1878, the United Provinces 624, Bengal 14. Not two kinds of wolf. The rule gets written very plainly. The less people and wolves meet, the fewer attacks. The more they meet, the more. That one sentence is the whole puzzle. North America's safety is real. It just isn't the wolf's virtue. It's our own result. Now go back to that door. On the Indian side, the wolf and the person were never separated. There was no century of clearing, so there's no distance on the far side of that century. And there, the ledger has been running the whole time. Hazaribagh, 1910 to 1915. 115 children, same place, 1980 to 1986. 122 dead, 100 injured. Southern Bihar, 1989 to 1995. 92 cases, 23% of everything recorded in that period. And then 2024, Bahrain, where we started. Now why those houses have no door? Because of poverty. That's all it is. A door costs money. The people in those villages don't have that money, so at night the house is open. Of the people who died in those 6 months, 9 out of 10 were children. Go back to the definition of child lifting. A wolf comes in silently while everyone is asleep. Now you know why that term appeared in India. It isn't a word about a wolf, it's a word about a doorframe. Same species, same span of years. On this side, people wrote on paper that wolves never attack humans. On the Bahrain side, what arrived was a government advisory telling them to fit a door. The difference isn't the quality of the people, and it isn't the breed of wolf. The difference is money, guns, and a wall. And one more thing has to be said. There are only about 3,000 Indian wolves left in the wild. They're an endangered species. There's also no consensus inside the field. The researcher Jella has argued the other way, that in some of these cases the evidence for blaming wolves isn't strong enough. I'm leaving that sentence in. I'm not cutting it. A species that's disappearing and a real threat at the same time. Those two things don't contradict each other. Admitting the second one is what earns you the right to talk about the first. So should you be afraid of wolves? If you live in North America or Western Europe, this is extremely rare. Rare enough that you'll probably go your whole life without it. But the reason isn't in the wolf. It's in what happened on the ground under your feet over the last 100 years. The current official language from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is this: wolves are very afraid of people, but they're opportunistic hunters, and if the opportunity appears, they will attack a human. It doesn't say there has never been a case, it says opportunity. So is the wolf dangerous? Was never a question about the wolf. It's a question about where you're standing, and how much distance is left. We erased two things. One was the ledger, the names and the counts in those registers. The other one is lighter, and harder to give back. Their fear was real, and we rewrote it as superstition, because that made the species easier to love. It didn't have to be that. You can know how those 10,000 died and still want these 3,000 to live. That door is still standing there. It's the newest line in this story, and the most honest one. It isn't saying the wolf is evil. It's saying the people living there were never given that 100 years.